This presentation focuses on the scientific practices of conservation researchers working in a center committed to the Sierra de Huautla Biosphere Reserve located in Mexico. The study specifically explores the type of research conducted by scientists and their perspectives on conservation. Biosphere reserves were conceived by UNESCO as an integrative conservation model specifically designed for sustainable integration of social and natural environments, a mandate for which it relies on both natural and social scientific research to improve local conservation practices. The idea of integrating human needs with environmental protection, embedded in continuous scientific efforts, has earned the Biosphere Reserve model considerable support across Latin American environmental policy. Especially in Mexico, the government has prioritized the establishment of biosphere reserves as a central conservation initiative. The Mexican government also incorporated a large number of scientists as non-political technical experts into its staff. The idea behind this decision was to increase the natural science dimensions of planning without commitments for the social and political dimensions of the country's environmental administration. First a protected area in the state of Morelos, Sierra de Huautla became a biosphere reserve in 2006. The reserve is co-governed by the Mexican Environmental Agency and by a local research center committed to monitor the biological and social conditions of the reserve. This research center is the site of my study. At the time the data was collected, the research center was organized into 3 units. 2 associated with the development of research in the natural sciences and 1 related with social sciences. I interviewed 8 scientists working in these units. My study follows the social world arenas analysis. This approach is rooted in a long tradition of examining scientific practice from an organizational perspective. I use this complemented with actor-based elements of bounded rationality, which allow to examine individual perspectives, and this approach widely used in conservation policy analysis. I found that there was an asymmetry between the amount of research conducted in natural sciences and social sciences informing conservation initiatives in Sierra de Huautla Biosphere Reserve. The factors that allow this imbalance to occur are the number of scientists, resources, and funding allocated to each unit within the center, the perspectives of scientists, and the larger institutional contexts where scientists work. For instance, out of 20 researchers employed at the research center, only 2 were associated with social sciences. Over 90% of the center's funding and resources were allocated to natural science research, and the collaborations of researchers were mainly held with other academic centers that were exclusively dedicated to the natural sciences. The participants' conservation-related perspectives were categorized into protectionist and people-oriented as counter-directed positions. These were supported by interview data surrounding the participant descriptions of their work, their values about nature, and their ethical arguments for conservation. Here, I show 2 excerpts of the interviews that were analyzed. Another finding of the study is that even within the amount of biological research carried out in the center, there was a lack of connection and engagement with the local conservation needs of the Biosphere Reserve. I looked for information of the type of research academics were engaging in the available Research Center annual reports and through Google Scholar searches. I found that the natural science-based research was not conducted in Sierra de Huautla Biosphere Reserve, or did not concern life forms particular to this site. The interviews offered information regarding why this was happening. Most of the scientists prioritized publishing generalizable biological research in high-ranked journals and did not conduct locally relevant research. In conclusion, the socio-natural interface that should be guiding conservation research in a biosphere reserve was virtually absent in Sierra de Huautla, due to individual interests and due to the character to the scholarly requirements which force scientists to comply with regulations that are often detrimental to conservation research. The findings show that perspectives of conservation held by scientists have material consequences as they decide how to do their work, and that the overall institutional context where scientists carry out their work is crucial for understanding how conservation initiatives are conducted. I would say that the most important implication of this study is that it shows that the success of Mexican biosphere reserves depends on revisiting the culture of conservation research practice in Mexico. Scientists' norms, careers, and commitments are embedded within social and institutional contexts which are not value-free or neutral, but inherently political. Sustaining people, sustaining places involve looking at the in-the-ground practices of individuals working in initiatives that involve human-environment interactions. The value of research conducted in this realm, from a sociological perspective, is that it allows to know what are the actual experiences and constraints of the key actors of conservation, and to find ways to think about and design better approaches to this complex work. Understanding the perspectives and pressures of conservation scientists within their organizational setting can provide insights into gaps and failures of conservation-relevant research and the related science policy in general.